Good morning. Welcome to the info session that is organized by EU Tax-Free project in regards to newly published call for proposals of the European Union and under the program of EU Civil Society Facility and Media Program in the favor of the Western Balkans and Turkey for period 2021 and 2023. My name is Andrea. And I'm working as a capacity building expert at EU Tax-Free project. I've already met with many of you during some our previous events and similar sessions, and also probably visited some of you during my work on different projects regarding monitoring of the grants. So today I will be sharing with you information that is presented in the call, but also some other informations in regards to the application forms and application process. What is actually our plan for today? It is to actually have this info session and later on to discuss a little bit more in detail on the concept notes development, and in the afternoon session on the application of the full application forms development. In these additional sessions, we will actually go more into details on the experiences concerning the application process, but also some things from the application process that affects implementation level. We will also share some tips from the practices concerning how to improve the writing of the concept notes and full applications, what to avoid, etc., etc. Today with me, I have a little of course, assistance. My colleagues from the EU Tax-Free project, Christina, our event manager, who will be sending soon to you the list of participants in the chat section, and also my colleague Alexandra, our country coordinator for Montenegro. Alexandra will help me in actually facilitation of your questions that you are kindly requested to ask in the chat section. So the idea is that during the info session, I provide you with this PowerPoint presentation that I started to share with you, and you may start submitting your questions in written form in the chat section. I ask you to be, of course, on the mute, and actually, well, if you want, you can be on camera. That doesn't reflect the process. The idea is that all questions that you will ask, we can reflect further on in the follow-up action in the list of the questions and answers, which we will then, of course, publish on the website. Unfortunately, I will not be in a position in these 90 minutes of this session to actually consider all your questions as such. Idea is to actually make, let's say, like a small pause every 10 to 15 minutes, depending on the, let's say, sections of the presentation, and to have a conversation on some of the questions. For the beginning, I would just like to ask you, can you confirm that you hear me well? Just briefly.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Excellent. Okay.
Yes. From Kosovo. Yes.
Okay. Greetings to all of you. We have really the huge number of people from the region that registered for this session, but also some people from the like all over the Europe as well. So welcome all, and I will now continue with the presentation. So, what is the content of this info session? It is primarily, of course, reflected to present this new opportunity for grants for civil societies from the Western Balkans and Turkey. For those who already visited the website where tender is published, you could see there are many documents to be taken into consideration. For the beginning, what is important to do is to actually download all those documents. Alexandra will send you now also link into the chat to all those documents in case you still did not succeed to open the link and to actually check the documents. However, our main focus, primary focus of the session for today will be on the document that is called Guidelines for Grant Applicants. And in those little boxes that you can see are the key topics of the session, which are also presenting the key topics of that document. That document, as the name says, it's a key guiding document for the whole process. And it is, let's say, our important step and the important source of information during the whole process when we have any question or any, let's say, concern to check. Based on the experience, it happened a lot in the practice that instead of reading the guidelines for applicants, we call our colleagues to check what they think or how was the previous time based on their experience, etc. My advice is please don't do that. Prior, you read actually the guidelines for applicants, since they are really in detail in many pages explaining the whole procedure, what are the priorities, how to apply, what are, let's say, the rules of the game. And we will refer into this info session primarily to that document and also mentioning number of annexes to this document. What is the overall, the global objective of this call, and what actually this call want to, let's say, contribute by providing support via grants to civil society? It is in an overall vision of primarily enhanced regional cooperation, good neighborly relations, and reconciliation. But also, this call is aiming to strengthen participatory democracies and, of course, the EU approximation process of the Western Balkans and Turkey. Those of you who already download the Guidelines for Applicants document could see the key 4 areas of the call, which are, of course, transferred from the specific objectives. One area is related with the specific objective number 1 and actually contributes to strengthening of the CSO capacity and engagement opportunities in policy and decision making across the various thematic areas. We will mention and present some of them, of course, during the session. However, they're all addressed in the document that is called Economic and Investment Plan for the Western Balkans. You have, of course, link to that document in the Guidelines for Applicants, and also I think we can share it as well in the chat. The second specific objective relates to enhancing neighborly relations between Serbia and Kosovo. And here you will see, I will refer a lot, we have one specific lot for small scale projects to contribute to these objectives. And then we have 2 specific objectives which are contributing to increasing capacity of the professional organizations and networks of journalists, and increasing the capacities also of the media outlets, media institutions, with purpose of exercising the right to freedom of expression, access to information, and of course, promotion of media pluralism. In addition to what is said, what should be also considered when developing your applications for concept notes, and then later on for those selected full application forms, you should consider two more important elements. One is that since we are talking about the large grant scheme, and you will see soon about large actually grants as such, we should also ensure that we provide an outreach to wider CSO community, especially those working at the local level on the specific topics. And for that purpose, the financial support to third parties is further strengthened with this call. And it is obligatory that between 15 to 30% of the total eligible costs of the action of the proposed budgets are dedicated for that kind of support. I will again later on refer, I have separate slides concerning the financial support to third parties, also called FSTP. Another important element, and you will see it also visible via other parts of the presentation, and also in the webinars on the concept note and the full application, is related with importance of paying attention to gender issues, as in line with the EU Gender Action Plan 3 for the period 2021 and 2025. And it's important that these issues are taken into account during the preparation of the proposals, because they will be also taken account during the evaluation process. In overall, guidelines for applicants is giving to us very detailed information on the background, on the reasons for creating such a grant scheme opportunity, and is pointing out several key documents to be consulted. They are not the only documents to be consulted. It might be that you will add some of the documents that are specifically related with your area of the proposals that you will be submitting, or for particular countries and so on. But those listed here, some of them are already mentioned, should be definitely taken into account. Even the links are available in the guidelines for applicants. We agreed that in the chat section, we will also send you those links, so you can immediately, record them, download them, etc. Please consider consulting those documents when you are going to develop your concept notes and full application forms, and do not forget to refer on them in your proposals. The guidelines for EU support to CSOs in the enlargement region are actually the only one that I did not mention until now. It's we have certain documentation contributes to this document, since the new version of the document will be hopefully finalized and published soon. But there are previous versions and actually assessment documents on the implementation of the guidelines, with number of the recommendations for civil society organizations from the region. So I mentioned several times that this is a large grant scheme, that we are talking about great large grant opportunity. So here is the information. we have in total a financial allocation of 18 millions of euros. In the table here presented, you can actually see how this amount is distributed among 6 lots that are presenting specific areas of the tender. So lot number 1 relates to good governance, rule of law, and anti-corruption. Lot number 2 to human rights, anti-discrimination, and intercultural dialogue. Lot number 3 to green and digital transition. Lot number 4 to media freedom and freedom of expression, including countering disinformation and misinformation. Lot number 5, it relates to small-scale projects in support of good neighborly relations between Serbia and Kosovo. And lot number 6 relates to quality journalism. During the presentation, you will hear offer from my side that particular rules reflects, for example, to or relates to all lots, except, for example, for lot 5. And you will soon learn why it's like that, or that there are some specifics for lot 3 or for the lot 6. For example, now when talking about this financial allocation, as you know from previous experience, the contracting authority reserves the right not to award all available funds. However, it may happen that in case in particular lot we have less good quality proposals, contracting authority may decide to transfer part of the funds to another lot. However, in case of the lot 6, if any remaining sources will be available, they will not be transferred to other lots. So we heard what is the overall allocation. Here's the presentation. What is the actual size of grants that we are talking about? And here in this first table, we have distribution in relation to minimum and maximum amounts and in relation to lots. So for the lots 1, 2, 3, and 4, the minimum amount of the grant requested, the minimum amount requested for the grant from your side should be 700,000 euros. The maximum amount that can be requested is 1.3 million. So for the lot 5, since we are talking about small-scale projects, we have some bit smaller amounts. So the minimum amount requested should be 200,000 euros and maximum 400,000 euros. For the lot 6, as you can see, we have the specific requirement that the minimum amount of the grant is 1.8 million of euros, while maximum can be up to the maximum actually amount available for that lot, and that is 2 million of euros. Those mentioned minimum and maximum amounts, of course, should be considered when we are talking about the total eligible costs of the action and minimum and maximum percentages of the grants that can be requested. So minimum percentage is 51% of the total eligible costs of the action, not of the grant. So your proposal will have a budget, and part of the budget will be actually presenting the grant request. The minimum is to request 51% of the total eligible costs, and maximum is 90% of the total eligible costs, except for the lot 5, which is the small-scale projects of neighborly cooperation between Kosovo and Serbia. In that case, you may request 95% of the total eligible costs of your project budget. We have simple example here in case you calculated total eligible costs of your action as, let's say, 1 million euros. So in that case, the minimum that you would have to request would be 510,000 euros. However, as you can see, that's in cases of many of lots is not enough for the minimum amount of grant to be requested. So please consider that. This is just example for the simple arithmetic operation. And then maximum, of course, let's say of the example of 90% is 90,000, which leads us to the point that you should ensure co-financing of 10%. The 10% might seem like a not huge amount, but concerning the overall size, let's say, of this process, it would be 100,000 euros. And this is only in relation to the eligible costs. You all who are more experienced know that there are certain type of the costs that will happen during implementation of your project, and they will be ineligible. So you always have to have, let's say, reserve another source of the funds, which will actually help you to manage the process of covering co-financing and possible ineligible costs that will actually occur during that might occur during implementation of the grants. When we are talking about who may participate in this process, here are the information. So who can actually apply? You heard that I was mentioning CSOs from the Western Balkans and Turkey, and exactly. In order to someone to act as a lead applicant, must be a legal person, to have a legal entity, must be non-profit making. Of course, should be CSO or representative network of CSOs, having experience in the areas of the call, and especially specific thematic areas for which you are applying in terms of the, for example, a lot under which you are applying. And you should be, if you want to apply in the role of the lead applicant, should be established in one of the IPA-free beneficiary, meaning countries of the Western Balkans and Turkey. As a lead applicant, you are taking over responsibility to be responsible for the preparation of the proposal and for the implementation of the grant. You are the first contact with the contracting authority and responsible in front of the contracting authority for the implementation of the grant contract. Consider having needed experience for the management of the whole operation, and of course for the area in which you are applying. You should be registered at least since April 2020, and in case network applies, at least 2 members of the network should be registered since at least April 2020. All lead applicants have to sign, both at the level of the concept note proposal and full application form, the document that is called declaration by the lead applicant, in which you are actually confirming your readiness to actually do this whole work, the responsibility for the whole work, but also you are referring that you are not in a position of possible exclusion for the participation, etc. This is in detail presented in the guidelines for applicants. Please consider, you maybe already noticed, since I did not mention, but it's written on this slide, that you should act when applying for a grant under this call with co-applicants. And now I will, in a few moments, explain who can be also the co-applicants. It's important to know that establishing like a partnership with co-applicants or consortium with the co-applicants is mandatory. So you need to apply also with some other actors. However, when we are talking about the lot 5, and there is also one important information, and there will be many of them concerning the lot 5. Even for the lead applicants are only eligible CSOs or representative networks of CSOs. For the lot 5, in addition to these, local authorities, but only from Kosovo and Serbia, can act also as lead applicants. And you will see that this lot has several more specifics in relation to, of course, the applicants and some other elements of the tender. So, who are the co-applicants? Co-applicants are our partners. They will participate in the action. We will develop proposal together with them, arrange who will do what. We need actually them to strengthen our proposal because they have maybe certain experiences in certain countries in the region and so on. The point is that we are actually building our network of partners in the region and strengthening in that way number of CSOs and CSO networks in the region. Of course, co-applicants also have right to coverage of the costs that will occur during the implementation of the action, as well as the lead applicant. Therefore, because of everything that I now said, co-applicants, they must satisfy the same eligibility criteria as the lead applicant. That means it should be also legal person, legal entity. It should be from the IPA-free beneficiary. It should present CSO or CSO network. At the end, we need to end up of having lead partner and at least 3 more co-applicants from 4 more co-applicants from 4 more different IPA countries. Our partnership will then be composed of a minimum of 5 organizations or networks that are presenting at least 5 free IPA-free beneficiaries. They can, of course, represent more or they can represent all, but the minimum requirement is to have a lead applicant and 4 more legal entities, organizations from other IPA beneficiaries in the region. Concerning the lot 5, except the CSOs, local authorities, but only from Serbia and Kosovo can compose such a partnership. So here we need to have partnership or consortium, as you wish to call it, composed of at least 1 eligible representative from Serbia and 1 eligible representative from Kosovo. This is the story about the mandatory co-applicants. So please consider that when you are now developing, setting up your consortia. However, there are other, we are calling them here in the call optional co-applicants, which can participate in addition to mandatory co-applicants. And these are CSOs or CSO networks established in the EU member states. And only for lot 3, as addition to those mentioned as mandatory co-applicants and optional co-applicants, we may invite to participate as well social economic stakeholders like social enterprises, which are also eligible under this call, but only as optional co-applicants and only in relation to specifically to lot 3. Guidelines for applicants are providing to us on the page 9 in the footnote 10 really broad definition of the civil society and who are those that are considered as civil society organizations under this call. I was not putting that it's really like detailed information provided, so to not actually copy paste everything from the guidelines for applicants. The same also refer to the lot 3 and those possible optional co-applicants, which are defining the social, which are also giving opportunity to social economic stakeholders. And under the footnote 15, you will find also definition who are those that are presenting social enterprises that can act as optional co-applicants under this call. I have 2 more slides, and then I will make a break to actually respond on some of your questions. In relation, who else can apply to lead applicant, mandatory co-applicants, optional co-applicants? We have also affiliated entities. The affiliated entities are those that are having some particular structural or legal or capital link with the applicant. On the pages 12 and 13 in the guidelines for applicants, you have in detail presented what means structural link or what means legal or capital link, and who can be the affiliated, actually affiliated entity. You may apply also by having in your proposal affiliated entities. However, please consider that they must satisfy the same eligibility criteria as the lead applicant and mandatory co-applicants. Consider that carefully, and please note that affiliated entity is not the same as the mandatory co-applicant. So it's something in addition. Even affiliated entity, in case of awarding the grant, will also have a right on the coverage of the eligible costs that might occur during implementation of the action and concerns their involvement. Here is also the summary information who is not affiliated entities. So they are not those with whom you will subcontract to actually provide you some service or to sell some, I don't know, products. They are not those to whom you will provide financial support to third parties or someone with whom you cooperate on some regular basis based on some memorandum of the understanding or some other agreement and so on. So please review carefully whether you really need, whether you really have affiliated entity and what would be the role of the affiliated entity in the action, and of course, whether affiliated entity satisfies the eligibility criteria for this call. Two more, let's say, groups of actors that we should mention here concerning the call for proposals are associates and contractors. So associates might be presented in your application form, and those might be some other organizations or some other institutions from the region, but also from other regions like European Neighborhood or of course from the EU member states. It can be also like institutions and bodies of the central and local authorities with whom we are cooperating, and they are actually important for the implementation of our action. They just presented in the application form. At the moment of the application process, they don't have any kind of the responsibility like lead applicant and mandatory co-applicants. And that of course reflects at the level of the implementation, meaning we can only cover travel costs and per diem costs of representatives of those actually entities in case they are participating in our action. For example, in case maybe of some event, study trip, and so on. Of course, the point is to have as associates those that will really bring the specific impact to our project, and especially in relation to the implementation and sustainability of the results of our action. Contractors are those that we are going to hire to contract during implementation of our grants. They are providing services, works, and supply. At the level now of the developing proposals, we are not mentioning who will they be, except at the level of the full application, we might define some of the, let's say, information, not the names of the particular experts or companies or suppliers or other details of that procurement process. So they are not now part of the application except at the level of calculating the eventual costs of the action. Okay, now I talked a lot since there are really lots of information, and prior actually I continue, I would like to ask Alexandra to share with me some of the questions so I can respond on them.
Okay. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you all for listening and for your questions. There are many of them. I will try to group them. I will, Andrea, also send you some kind of list, but the first group of questions is actually about eligibility. And there are several people asking, is it possible to apply as a lead applicant, but also as a co-applicant? And is it possible to apply for several lots? So to be, for example, lead applicant on one lot and to be co-applicant on the other lots, or these kind of combinations, to say it.
Okay, I will briefly say, I will provide this information soon in the presentation. So let's see whether there is something for the part that I was talking about until now, but because I will reflect on this soon.
Okay, there are several questions about also eligibility of applicants in the sense, are scientific research institutions or centers eligible? Also, is it possible for UN agencies to be co-applicants of partner civil society organization as a lead applicant?
Okay, well, the situation is like this. So from the point now of this presentation and the application process information, whether you are eligible, it cannot be provided neither here by my side, neither by contracting authority, because the eligibility will be evaluated based on application and of course the information provided in the application as such, and later on documentation that should be submitted. However, and it's also of course very sensitive to define when you say we are this type of the organization, whether you are really this type of the organization or not. what you should do if you are not sure whether you are eligible or not is to consider what is presented in the guidelines for applicants, especially starting from this page 9, footnote 10, where the definition of the civil society is presented, to consider whether you actually fit into that definition. And then again, you have to reflect on what I was presenting here, who can be the lead applicant, because also the same refers to the mandatory of the co-applicants. So consider that this call is giving utmost priority to organizations, or better say the legal entities fulfilling all these conditions, and that are coming from IPA-free beneficiary countries. So that means you must be registered in one of these IPA-free beneficiaries, either, so not to mention all 7 of them, meaning the Western Balkans and Turkey. Okay.
There are also 2 types of other questions. One group is related to involvement of local administrations. And is it possible that they benefit from the capacity building activities, or this is only referred to training and capacity development of CSOs? And also, is it possible that they are beneficiaries as a third party when we are giving financial support to third parties?
Well, the point is as such, you will define your target groups now after actually you hear what we will also talk a little bit more about the composition of the lots and what each lot is supporting. And of course, you will define your target group in relation to the objectives of this call. So you should actually define whether those that you want to support are actually will at the end contribute to the fulfillment of those objectives as such. Local authorities as such cannot be your partners, that's definitely, except in case of the lot 5, where they can be lead applicant and they can be as well co-applicants. But for other parts of the projects, it really depends whom you will actually target, as such. It can be a wide range of the individuals and organizations contributing to fulfillment of your objective as such. That all also reflects to financial support to third parties as well, since in your overall approach, you should define how you will organize financial support to third parties and who will be the actual recipients of those grants.
And there is also one group of questions related to budget. I don't know, is this the moment now, Andrea, to ask you on this, or maybe to wait until...
Let's share this with us. So okay. Then
there are some questions related to co-financing. The one is when we are talking about co-financing, can this amount be spread among all the 5 mandatory applicants, or this co-financing should be managed only by the lead applicant? And also one more maybe to add, also when presenting co-financing, is it possible that we present a percentage of the salaries of the staff and consultants engaged as co-financing?
When we are talking about the co-financing in overall, it is that it should be ensured by the end of the implementation of the grant contract by all sides involved, meaning co-financing can be defined in a way that the lead applicant or all partners involved can contribute, but also what can happen is that another donor will actually support the action, as such. Specifics, I will actually talk a little bit more about the budget in the session on the full application form, because it will also include the budget. However, specifics on the other co-financing arrangements, this will have to be actually asked and checked with the contracting authority, because it might be specifics of the policies and the rules and so on. So maybe something that was applicable for some another grant scheme might be for this one, or might be actually not. However, now at the level of preparing the application, you actually, of course, primarily defining your total budget and especially total list of the eligible costs, and you don't have to point out the exact distribution of the co-financing among the partners. You just have to point out, of course, the percentage and the amount that will be responsibility of the actual beneficiary as such.
And maybe one group of questions that is connected with, I think, a general rule. Is it possible for organizations that are still implementing projects submitted, a project approved by DG NEAR from previous civil society regional call? Can they apply again? Are they eligible for this call now, since their projects are?
Well, at this moment, I do not recall that there is some requirement that they cannot. However, I will be honest, I'm not at the moment 100% sure, so I will reflect that question to the contracting authority to not make a confusion. From the point of the practitioner, my comment is just such organizations should consider their capacities to be in a situation to implement more than one large regional projects. So this should be the first, let's say, internal question as such. This is the second one. I do not recall that this is such a requirement in the guidelines for applicants, but anyhow, I will check this to be sure to provide correct information to participants of the info session. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, yeah. I would like to continue since the time is actually going fast, and we still have lots of information to present and to respond on some of the questions that you asked. Thank you, Alex. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the eligible actions, and then we will also talk about the number of the applications per each call, etc. So you know that each action is composed of several of the set of the activities, and we will talk about it more in detail in the afternoon session. What is important for you now to consider is that there are some requirements for duration of the actions. For the beginning, the duration should be a minimum of 36 months. It cannot be lower, except in case of the small scale projects under the lot 5, there it can be 30 months. So for all other lots, the minimum is 36 months and the maximum is 48 months. 48 months refers to also to lot 5. That means for all lots. So now you can see how this idea of the large grants and large partnerships also reflects on the duration of the action, meaning in such a quantity of the months. Following, of course, the objectives of this call, location in which those actions should be implemented are, of course, Western Balkans and Turkey. Some limited number of activities could take place, for example, in EU member states are related to some maybe study visit, conference, dissemination of information, and so on. But the point is to implement actions in the Western Balkans and Turkey, meaning in the IPA-free beneficiaries, and to actually make a change in the region. That is what we want to achieve with this call. Of course, when we are talking about the Lot 5, then the actions should be implemented only and of course reflect on changes in Kosovo and Serbia, but in both IPA beneficiaries. In case of the Lot 6, you have explained Lot 6 very in detail in the guidelines for applicants, and here I will present to you also information concerning the Lot 6. The Lot 6 should be, actions should be composed of targeting for several priorities only the Western Balkans, but the priority that relates to journalists award should also include Turkey, Turkey as well. List of the eligible actions is presented in detail in the guidance for applicants on pages 14 to 17. I have prepared like a summary of information per lots here. So here is the in summary for Lot 1, of course, the actions that are contributing to public administration reform, preventing and fighting of the corruption, and of course, building capacities, promoting like transparency, integrity, and accountability. For the Lot 2, which is dedicated to human rights, to anti-discrimination and intercultural dialogue, we have again list of actions listed here. They are not completed and presented more in detail in the guidance for applicants. They primarily reflects to empowerment and inclusion of marginalized group, but also, of course, promoting gender equality at different levels, supporting victims of crime and victims of trafficking and fighting for their rights, and also number of actions in relation to intercultural and interreligious area, including the literacy, promotion, understanding of tolerance, etc. Lot 3 includes green and digital transition. As you remember, Lot 3 has specifics that optional co-applicant can be also those stakeholders in area of like social economic stakeholders, social enterprises, and so on. And here you have the whole list of the possible actions in relation to clean and sustainable energy and the pollution and green and circular economy and even sustainable farming, etc. Not to now actually mention all of them. And also digital transition that actually supports the like e-government and digitalization, development of the digital skills, especially in relation to marginalized groups and so on. You have to decide for which lot you are of course applying. You can't just like list several lots, because you have to focus on the purposes of the each lot. But as you can see, the range number of the different target groups and final beneficiaries can be targeted by the different actually lots, or as a part of one particular lot. When we are talking about lot number 4, it's important to distinguish it from the lot number 6. So the lot number 4 is aiming to media freedom, freedom of expression, including countering disinformation, misinformation, etc. And you will see the range of the now here, the ideas of the actions that can be supported under this lot, and they are actually presenting reflecting the situation concerning the media freedom and freedom of expression in the region. As you can see in this lot, but also in when mentioning other lots, you always have further on promotion of some kind of the cooperation, partnership. For example, in this case is also between CSOs and media outlets, reaching to some like remote and rural areas, etc. Small-scale projects that will contribute to good neighborly relations between Serbia and Kosovo are dedicated to so often mentioned the lot 5. And here we actually literally have on the, let's say, small scale of the region concerning the Kosovo and Serbia, number of projects that can implement actions concerning the cooperation among professional groups, joint cultural activities, also as well media pluralism and professional journalism and reporting, but also youth empowerment, education, culture, local democracy, etc. What is important to mention, it's mentioned several times in the guidelines for applicants, but I did not stress yet enough, that is that those actually actions should be devoted, should present in the concept notes and full application forms that they are contributing, developing a constructive intercultural and interethnic partnership among those that are acting as applicants and mandatory co-applicants. So you should consider that as well and emphasize in your proposals importance of that. Quality journalism is a lot which, as I said, is explained in detail, and this actually lot is contributing, is expecting that proposed actions will contribute to specific priorities and results of this lot. We have in total 4 of them. So on this slide, we are having a presentation of the 3 results, which are contributing to development of the new generations of young and mid-career journalists, then support to publishing of the quality news and investigative stories, and enhancing capacities further on of journalists in the region. These, let's say, results 1, 2, and 3 in overall, you will see from the guidance for the applicants is describing the large capacity building process for those mentioned groups, including, of course, the small grants, trainings at the national levels, but also in each beneficiary country of the Western Balkans, and also at the regional level. The point is that no matter how the partnership is composed, you should target 6 countries from the Western Balkans with activities and actions under this slot. And in addition to result number 4, you should also target Turkey concerning the activities that are contributing to result number 4, and let's say in summary called regional EU award scheme for quality news, and investigative journalism. Of course, we are here talking about the standards of the development of the standards of the such award, development of the yearly competitions. Here we have the certain amount which should be devoted for the actually prizes for particular journalists in each IPA beneficiary, and for the regional prizes and so on. This lot is like one, let's say, small project with lots of details, and therefore the contracting authority also helped us in providing information, and it's presented here on the website, presenting such a similar previous experience. Please also note that you will see by reading the detailed description of this lot that the cooperation with number of like academic institutions, professional organizations, and so on is envisaged and sort of welcomed. We are encouraged to include it as part of our actions. So not only dedicate on resources of those that are involved as lead applicant and co-applicants in the process. Of course, now in relation to this, what can be implemented, we have detailed list of what cannot be implemented, including the individual sponsorships and number of the actions that are clearly stated that if they only concern or mainly concern, for example, scholarship, research, conference, infrastructure investments, then they're not eligible action, meaning your action, your proposal cannot be just organization of the conference or implementation of the research. However, also here reading carefully in detail, there are also other examples of actions that are not eligible under this code. Since we talked about actions, they are composed of activities. Guidance for applicants provides us with a really huge list of the number of the activities that can be part of our actions. You even have in relation to this that is presented here, like different range of capacity building activities, monitoring, advocacy, etc. You, of course, always encourage to develop some pilot projects, innovative approaches, something that will actually also improve delivery of the services to citizens, etc. The presented list here in the presentation, and especially in the guidelines for applicants, is not the only one. So it's not the complete one. So it gives us only the guide what is actually eligible. And based off that, you can actually develop and manage different approaches and types of activities, etc., based, of course, on the needs of your target group and final beneficiaries that you assessed and their capacities, and of course, what you want to do and achieve with your actions. Few more slides, and then I will again make a short break for questions. We have here especially listed in the guidelines for applicants something that I already mentioned, and that is financial support to third parties. As you are aware, this support is now actually, let's say, alive for some time, and it's promoted in past couple of years. And there are already a number of projects that are supported in the region, and they have the component of the financial support to third parties. This is significant capacity building support because it actually allows to us to do not only the capacity building through like trainings, but also through some small grants with those with whom we are targeting without action. However, now since the experience is building, the requirements are also building. So in the guidelines for applicants, you will see now that except the idea how you will actually implement FSTP as such, you are required also to carefully plan number of the activities that are mentioned in the guidelines for applicants, like certain training activities, mentoring activities, monitoring activities, etc. Please consider that while developing your proposals, because this will be evaluated and will be actually, it will be assessed whether you actually consider what was presented in the guidelines as the obligatory information to be presented in your call. To share those experiences that I mentioned, we have like very recent publication on collection of the good practices from the number of the organizations and from neighborhood and enlargement countries. It's actually very interesting. It considers lots of the, let's say, practical information and ideas how something can be done or prepared or implemented. This is definitely very valuable tool for all of us. And in addition to this, I will also mention that we as a EU-TAXO3 also preparing one like a regional event, like in the form of a workshop, where we will also dedicate that event to discussion on our experience on FSTP support concerning our region. You will be, of course, timely informed about this event. And do not forget the so much important visibility, which is very often the sort of the challenge how to actually properly design. I like to say how to design visibility, both the only formal requirements. So I think this call is great opportunity to enhance the visibility of the EU support in the region. There are a number of the actions and activities that can contribute to this. Now, your work is to consider the visibility requirements, which are also set up in the form of the publication that can be downloaded from the, of course, from the link that is stated here, to be informed about the requirements and ideas and possibilities, and of course, to not to be avoided in the presentation of the proposals, including the budgets. So don't forget to also count costs for the visibility. So maybe I wanted to actually now have a break for questions, but maybe to respond on this, because this was the first question, and then we can take few more questions. So when we are talking about the number of applications per applicants and affiliated entities, the situation is like this. If you are in the role of the lead applicant, you may submit only one application in that role, and of course under one lot. However, if you participate as a lead applicant, you may also participate as a co-applicant in another let's say, in another proposal, meaning that you can at the end get 2 grants, one as a lead applicant and one as a co-applicant. Of course, this should be under different lots. So you cannot apply, let's say, twice for the same lot. This relates only if you are in the role of the lead applicant. However, if you decided to apply only as a co-applicant, you may act only as a co-applicant or affiliated entity in the one application, and you can end up as a beneficiary only of one grant. So please consider that. Also, when you are composing your consortiums or partnerships as you wish, check with those involved whether they also, let's say, oblige themselves somewhere else. Because in case one organization is present in several consortiums, in several applications, at the end, all of them will be rejected. So take your responsibility of decision whether you will be a lead applicant and or co-applicant, and in how many actually applications or consortiums you will actually participate, to endanger actually all of those that are cooperating with you. So to summarize, lead applicant in one application under one call, and the lead applicant can be also co-applicant in another application under another lot. And you can end up with the 2 grants if you are so successful. If you act as a co-applicant, your affiliated entity, you may act only once. You may show up, let's say, participate only in one proposal, and at the end you may be only beneficiary of the one grant. Okay, so prior talking about the other details, Alex, maybe a few more questions. We should be now fast because we are actually approaching the end of the time.
Okay, so maybe one quick question. Is it possible that volunteer contribution is considered as a co-financing?
No, because the volunteer contribution is the part of the in-kind contribution, which is not eligible cost under this section. And here is exactly the topic. You are with questions always like few slides ahead. You are always questions are ahead to few slides that are coming. So when talking about the costs, of course, we have those that are eligible costs and those that are, not eligible costs. Let's clarify briefly. Eligibility of costs relates to those costs that, of course, are needed that we implement the action, and they relates to staff, human resources, travel, equipment, procurement of different, services, financial support to third parties, visibility, and so on. However, you will see in the afternoon webinar, when we will talk more about these categories of costs, you need to take care that they are eligible. What means eligible? That they are, of course, not on the list of ineligible costs, but also that they are needed for the action to be implemented. So that also should be considered when we are talking about the eligibility. Here are certain, let's say, types of the costs in relation to contingency reserve and indirect costs, which are actually defined in percentage of the estimated direct eligible costs. And they can be in the maximum of the 5% when we are talking about the contingency reserve, and maximum of the 7% of the indirect costs when we are talking about indirect costs, meaning they can be even lower, or you don't have to even calculate them at all. I will talk about them more during the session on full application form, because I will also go through the list of through the budget form. When we are talking about the contributions in kind, here they are clearly listed. They are not eligible under this code, and this also reflects two costs of the engagement of volunteers. And in addition to this, here is the whole list of the costs that are not eligible under this cost, including the different debts, provision of losses, of potential future liabilities, or costs that are already declared somewhere else. So we should be aware to not present a cost that might be treated as a double funding, etc. Like some other costs, like the currency exchange losses, etc. If some costs occur during the implementation of the action, but they are not, they are assessed as not eligible, they will be the cost of the applicant as such. So please consider that. And that's why I said at the beginning that actually we should consider that a particular amount of funds should be actually available at our budgets, in addition to what we are requesting, in addition to what we are proposing as a co-financing as well. Okay. Alexandra, do you have, let's say I take one more question and then I continue.
Yes, actually, if it's possible, those two, because one is related to how media can be included. Is it only for non-profit media, or is it also possible for media that are for-profit media to be involved in these calls? And the other thing is about this sub-granting, actually to support the third parties. Who is eligible? Is it only CSOs, or is it possible to support informal groups or startups or some physical persons, like even individuals?
Well, when we are talking about the possible other like outlets concerning the media and so on, please again refer depending where they will participate in the process. So if they are want to be in the role of the applicants and co-applicants or affiliated entities, they should they should respond on the eligibility criteria. So that's very much important, where you place in the part of the process certain certain actually groups. One of the requirements of the eligibility requirements for the entities to participate in the process are is that they should be non-profit. So if you are composing the partnership, you should consider that your partners should be non-profit. And again, I'm referring to this large definition of the civil society organizations, where you can really read in detail who are actually those. But anyhow, if you think that you are that one, but you are not a non-profit, then you are not eligible. So you should consider that. Financial support to third parties is very specific, and you actually should now consider, after you learn about the all, let's say, rules of the game, whom actually you can provide such a support and under which conditions. So what that will mean if you provide support to non-formal groups or the physical persons and so on, and whether there are requirements that can be actually let's say, too demanding for you, because you are becoming contracting authority of such, let's say, entities, you know, that you are going to support. I actually tend to say that financial support to third parties is a great opportunity. It's a great, actually, capacity building the idea, but it requires lots of our capacities. That means we have to prepare it well, and then it's a huge work once we start with the implementation. So in our idea to support many different, the actors and individuals and so on, we should consider how this will in the real life really look like, and especially how this will look like at the level of the eligibility of our work, reporting, especially financial reporting, and eligibility of our costs at the end. Okay, I will now continue because we are, approaching to the end, and I have still around 10 slides to share with you about the application process. Even I will mention that as well in the concept note session and full application, but it's important that is mentioned here. And thus I'm now informing you that I will actually will take a little bit more of the time. We plan to finish at 11, but I will, let's say, take some 10-15 minutes of more time to present everything to you as it was agreed with the contracting authority. So there is a whole one list in the guidance for applicants that it's titled Ethical Clauses and Code of Conduct. And what is here written in the bullet points are the actually main principles which are clearly in detail explained in the guidelines for applicants concerning the principles that you are expected to respect and to follow in your applications and during implementation of your actions. It relates to absence of conflict of interest, respect of human rights, environmental and labor standards, anti-corruption, etc. Important information here shortly to be mentioned, as you can see what is marked in blue. It's a specific annex, it's called Annex L, which is actually one self-assessment tool that applicants will be required in case they are pre-selected or at the reserve list after the concept note application, meaning when applying for the full application, concerning the internal policies against sexual exploitation, abuse, and harassment. This is self-assessment tool, and this requirement is administrative. So it's not part of the evaluation of your proposal, but from the administrative point is required to be fulfilled. So coming to the latest part of the presentation in relation to registration in concerning the process of the submitting applications. And in this process, we should consider following. We should consider registering information about our organization and our experiences into the system that is called PADR. Many of you are certainly already registered in PADR, and that might mean that you should update, if you did not recently, your organizational information into that system. From the point of the submission of the applications, now when you're submitting the concept notes, only lead applicants should be fully registered and information updated. And for co-applicants and affiliated entities, this should be done at the level of the full application. So you have some time. Anyhow, the guidelines for applicants are stressing out to not wait the last moment, to actually update information on time, and to actually contact those, the help desk service in case you have any kind of the issues with submitting information into the PADR. Another system that is called Prospect relates with actual online submission of the concept note and the full application. So they consist everything that you can find also in the annexes of the guidelines for applicants, and we will talk about the details in the upcoming sessions. The important is that the application via Prospect is obligatory, and therefore you should consider time for entering information into the system. Even now you will see the questions and guidelines for preparation of the applications in annexes. It takes time, and then it's a panic if we are doing at the last moment and if something is not functioning in the system. We all know how that actually look like. That's why now, in addition to different instructions, you have even the video tutorials on in relation to the Prospect. The process is divided concerning the submission of the concept note and full application form. Now, when we are talking about the concept note, we should actually consider the presentation of the information that relates to the Annex A1 of the grant application form, and lead applicant of signing the declaration by the lead applicant. No additional information should be actually sent, and details of the concept note I will share very soon, and in an hour. That is the composed information on the relevance of the action, description of the activities, and provides us estimated information on the budget and on the duration of the actions, and of course, who are those that are applying. Full application forms should be submitted if we are selected based on the concept notes. And then in that process, we are actually designing in more detail information concerning our action, including the budget and the log frame. And here there are certain documents that should be signed not only by the lead applicant, but also by co-applicants, and in case of the affiliated entities, by affiliated entities as well. Certain information can change at the level of the full application forms. However, you have restrictions like a budget cannot be revised for more than 20%, and other revisions should be in relation to concept note clearly explained and justified. That is actually that proper assessment can be made whether that can be accepted or not. More or less, I mentioned the info concerning the application. Here are just important deadlines. So the 24th of May until 6 o'clock in the afternoon, according to Brussels time, is the deadline for submission of the concept notes. Deadline for the submission of the full application form will be additionally defined, and those who will be invited to submit the full application form will be informed about that deadline. However, in addition to the information that you now asked today in the chat, you are actually invited to write to the contracting authority until the 3rd of May with all questions that you might have now when you will actually start the actual work. Until the 13th of May, contracting authority will publish answers on your questions on the website that is stated here. The same process applies also for the full application, form. I'm actually suggesting to you as a part of the good practice to actually visit occasionally this link where the information about call is published in case of some, corrigenda, revisions, additional information, and so on. Briefly about the evaluation process, we have, as you heard, step 1, which relates to evaluation of the concept notes. Then we have the step 2, which relates to evaluation of the full applications. And then as the final actually step, it's called verification of the eligibility of the applicants and affiliated entities. It relates to those that are actually selected during the evaluation of the full application process, and those that are the reserve at the reserve list. What that briefly includes, always each evaluation considers some part of the administrative check to see, of course, whether you fulfilled all the formal requirements of preparing application in English, responding on all questions, providing required information and documents. The same is for the concept note, and you will see the same is for the full application. After that administrative check, then the actual evaluation of the content of your application starts. If you actually received enough scores on the evaluation of the concept note, you are invited to submit full application. The point is that for the concept note, you can receive maximum of 50 points. However, the minimum should be at least 30 points. And then, of course, consequently, the list from the best score to down is defined by the contracting authority, and based on the available amount under each lot times 2, meaning 200% more. For example, if it's 2, then it's 4 million euros total available, not available, total budgets of the applications will be invited to submit full applications, meaning that you might be even scored well, but for the particular lot, if the ceiling after calculation of all requested budgets is above of the available, and you don't have enough scores as those which are in front of you, you will not be invited. Full application evaluation concerns also the evaluation of the capacities of the financial and operational capacity of the applicants. And it's very important to consider that. And that's why the registration and update of the PADR is important, because in case you are evaluated negatively, let's say, or you do not receive enough scores under this section of the evaluation, you might be rejected. You might receive up to 20 points in the evaluation of those capacities. However, if you receive receive less than 12 points, and especially if you under one of the sections are scored only 1, that means you are evaluated as the proposal which has no capacity needed for the implementation and management of such an action. Detailed grids with the scores are presented in the guidelines for applicants. So this can help you, and I will mention this into next sessions, how you should actually also consider that once you develop your application. So you can even, let's say, conduct your internal self-assessment based on the information from those grids that are presented in the guidelines for applicants. And at the end of the process, when you are stepped toward the signing actually of the grant, the final check is done to check whether the applicants and affiliated entities are really fulfilling all the conditions concerning the eligibility. In the guidelines for applicants, you have, of course, in detail information on the documents to be that you will be requested to submit and which will be actually verified and checked. At the end of each process concerning the concept note submission and concerning the full application submission, you will be, of course, notified by the contracting authority in written. And of course, in case you are unsatisfied, you have here instruction how you can actually submit, let's say, your complaint in case you are unsatisfied with the decision of the contracting authority. At the end of the guidelines of applicants, and we are ending to the presentation, and we'll have time for some more questions. You have, as a reminder, the website of the call. You have, as a reminder, the indicative like a timetable and upcoming dates and indicative dates concerning for the further process. So as you can see, the exact dates are defined until the date for submission of the concept note, and then later on you have indicative information when it's expected that further actions will happen. Last pages of the guidance for applicants are dedicated to the list of annexes, where some of them are actually presenting the documents to be completed. And meaning you should, of course, follow those formats to prepare your concept note, full application, budget, log frame, etc. And then you have list of documents for information. They relate mainly with the standard grant contract, but also some guidelines in relation with the costs, in relation with the tax regimes, self-evaluation questionnaire that I was mentioning, guidelines on the VAT exemption, etc., etc. They are very much important. I'm aware there are a lot of them at the moment. However, often at the level of the implementation, the lack of knowledge, what is actually, let's say, defined as part of the grant contract in front, now at the level of the application, might be an issue, either in relation to the, for example, calculation of the costs or procedures to follow, etc. The last, let's say, like a column, which is called like useful links. You have links to different tools, which are just tools. They are not presenting actually the rules and procedures. They are presenting the ideas how the work can be done, tools that were successful in the previous practice, or to see how others actually done something, etc. So, Alex, let's respond to a few more questions before actually ending this info session.
Mm-hmm. Okay, maybe just one more time to stress out information related to what will happen with the rest of the questions, because people asked, should they address these questions to the DG NEAR, because the deadline is very short to say. I think 3rd of May that you presented to us. So should I ask these questions directly to DGNIR, or we will ask DGNIR to give us concrete answers, because some questions were very, very specific, and they cannot be really answered now at this moment, especially not during the session. So should they address it, or we will do it? And also there is one remark that I have to say, since you've been leading the session, so for you was not maybe visible, we could not accept everyone that wanted to be here during the session, because the limit was up to 100 on this event. So to say to your colleagues that we will send a presentation, and also we will find a solution in our team, probably to offer maybe one more info session, or to manage this in some other way.
Okay, so definitely, if you so no matter what, we will prepare the list, of course, of questions and answers, and we will publish it on our website. However, that's not the same list of questions and answers that will be published by the contracting authority. So those questions and that you have directly for the contracting authority, you should submit until this deadline that is envisaged, and to the email address that is listed in the guidelines for applicants. This is the, let's say, 100% sure that you will then receive the desired answer on the question from the contracting authority. Anyhow, we will also consult our list of questions and answers with the contracting authority in case of course, quality control, and just to be sure that we did not interpret something differently, etc. So it's something that we should be very careful with the whole process. So
yeah, just one more thing. We have Liselot here with us, and she wrote in the chat that she could provide some answers now. We will just need from you, Andrea. Is it okay? And
of course,
Christina,
of course.
and from Christina to unmute Liselot.
Yes, while she's doing that, just let's say one last thing from my side: the presentation, but also the recording will be, of course, available, and Taxo will ensure that is available on our website. So it will be accessible as all other sessions that we are going to have today on our website. So I will actually now thank you all, and we'll give then opportunity to Liselotte to actually speak.
Hi, I don't know I think you can hear me now. Thanks.
Yes, yes.
Yes, so just very briefly, I will certainly not try to respond to everything, but first of all, thanks a lot, Andrea. I think that's really, really very helpful presentations. And as you've explained, there'll be, we will respond in writing here, but people can indeed also request formally clarifications as specified in this in the guidelines. I wanted to, on the one hand, just draw the attention to an excellent guide that is available on financial support to third parties. And I've put in the link in the chat the link to this, and it explains very well what can be done and so on. So it is quite flexible indeed, but it has to be very well explained and outlined in the application already. So as long as it's relevant for the action and so on, it's very much that can be done. Then there was a question very specific whether CSOs that currently have ongoing projects financed by the EU, whether they can also apply. We have, and I know it's because in the past we have excluded ongoing projects to apply. This time, since it was a long time since we had the last call, we decided to not exclude anybody from applying. So even those CSOs that have ongoing projects can apply, provided, of course, as Andrea already said, that there is capacity to implement, and of course that there is not a double funding of anything. So we cannot finance again an ongoing activity, but the applicant, the CSO, can apply already again. And then there was also a question about whether one could have a very delayed start, like in second half or in the beginning of 2024. And this is not formally excluded, let's say, but I don't think that it would be considered as a very, as a priority for finance if there was such a delayed start. We can have a slightly delayed start. The project can start either at the moment of the signature or the month after, or at a date which is agreed with the contracting authority. But we would not agree to a starting date which is much beyond the start date, the signature of the project. So that, I hope that's clear. For the rest, I think much of the questions there, the answers are in the guidelines, as has been pointed out with Andrea, but we can spell it out afterwards again and point to the exact page where the information is provided. But I just wanted to give these short feedbacks now.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, very helpful. I also let's conclude, want to thank you to all of you who expressed the interest into this session and who stayed present actually from the beginning until the end. It's always demanding session to present like over 40, I think, pages of the guidelines for applicants and rules and procedures into such a limited time and, let's say, to the point. Hopefully it was helpful. We will, of course, very soon, starting at noon, continue with the session on the concept note development, and then in the afternoon on the full development of the session on the development of the full application form. So you all also welcome to join to those sessions. And for the end, if you will not join, if I will not have opportunity to actually meet you anymore today, I wish you great success, first of all, in composing your partnerships to actually find good, strong, motivated partners, and of course then in developing successful proposals and even more, of course, successful implemented grants. So thank you all and wish you good rest of the day. And if you're coming to the sessions, see you soon.